Hello, everybody. This is Frank, Iron Age News, South Florida Conservative News Service, Sunday, February 8th, 9:48 a.m. And have to get this over with before the stupid bowl comes on. And once again, the United States people are embarrassed by the halftime show. More embarrassing yet than the halftime show is the behavior of certain Winter Olympic athletes and their obvious horror at having to represent the United States. So let's get into that very quickly because it's all you need since these guys are a bunch of misfit, poser, privileged assholes. For lack of a better term, that's the scientific term for it. And there is a word being thrown around a lot right now to describe certain of these people. They're mavericks, they're rebels, they're rule breakers, they're courageous dissenters. But let's take a very simple test of this for protest and what protest has and what did it cost you to make this protest? Well, my first and favorite, as everybody knows, at the 1968 Summer Olympics, American sprinters Tommy Smith and John Carlos raised their fists on the medal stand. They were both wearing black gloves. Agree or disagree with their politics, that is not the point. They knew the rules, they publicly broke the rules, and they paid for it. They were expelled from the games, they lost what endorsements they had, they were ostracized, and their careers never fully recovered. They didn't keep the benefits while rejecting that symbol. They accepted the consequences, and that is a protest. The opposite side, in a way, was the neutral athlete precedent, which happened during the Russian doping scandal, where the Olympic Committee couldn't figure out who wasn't on. It was easier to figure out who wasn't on drugs than who was on drugs. So the entire team was banned from going to the Olympics. The athletes tied to the Russian system that still wanted to go were stripped of their flag, their anthem, and their national identity. They competed as what was considered neutrals under entities like the Russian Olympic Committee. They didn't get to denounce the system while wearing its colors. They didn't get national branding without national responsibility. They competed openly, visibly, and under constraint. And that matters because it established a precedent. If you reject the national representation, it is lawful and there is a transparent way to do it. Okay, so let's be very precise. No one is alleging any secret funding for these people. No one is saying advocacy organizations can't support athletes. They can, and they can do it openly. So if an athlete truly wanted to reject representing the United States as a matter of principle, there was a clear path available. None of this, I'm uncomfortable wearing the flag of the United States, considering what we're up to now. You could have declined Team USA representation before you were selected. Shit's been going on for a while, okay? Compete as a neutral or independent, which you could have done. You could have cited the precedent of the Russian system. You could have accepted alternative, transparent funding. The opposition to the United States government in the United States is flush with money. One person had a flag up that was whatever you could say in orientation. That organization has billions of dollars. You could have gone and flown over in jet streams and flown over in the new Rolls Royce that flies, right? All these things could have been done. That would have made a real statement. That would have mirrored the neutral athlete model. But that's not what is happening. Instead, they waited till after selection. So they also pushed other people out of those positions. They got their sponsorship, they have the media protection, and they have the institutional backing of the Olympic Committee, the National Olympic Committee. So that's protesting with absolutely no repercussions. And they like that look because it's like, oh, I was super American up until 2 or 3 days ago when I realized how evil we are. Now I can't get my jacket off. But you know what? They still can't get their jacket off. Because if they take their jacket off, they lose the money from Ralph Lauren. All right. This is all just bullshit, but it plays into the typical, and I'll use their own terms, overprivileged, undereducated white idiot. And that's what you're dealing with in this Winter Olympics. You don't see a huge amount of inner city kids coming out and being skiers, figure skaters, equestrians, or sailing, right? Doesn't happen. Someone's going to send me something, but you know what? Fuck you. You know it doesn't happen. Okay. So these sports that these guys are involved in require wealth or at least very well resourced parents, which is what the problem is. These people are perpetual adolescents. Years of paid coaching, expensive equipment, flexible schedules to take 3, 4 months off and go to an expensive mountain and learn how to ski or how to do all this other bullshit, right? And they have to live near that special facility. Okay, this is not inner city. This is not scarcity. These athletes are not rising despite the system. They are rising because of the system, because the United States provides stability, wealth, infrastructure, and opportunities for their families. That context matters when someone is posturing. Is it a dissident? I'm sure they are burning their Rage Against the Machine album completely out in the Olympic Village where the U.S. ski team is. They can't not be, right? Or whoever else has taken the place of those Harvard graduates. So, what are we really watching with this shit other than, media masturbation? You're not looking at rebellion from the margins. You're not talking about protest from the powerless. You are in a rebellion from the balcony. All the benefits of national representation, all the money that comes with the sport, all the this, all of that, none of the risk and none of the sacrifice. Institutions reward it because it creates a narrative. The Olympic Committee in general, overall, would have hooked these guys up. Anyone who says America is shit at the Olympics is a hero. That's the same kind of group that runs the United Nations, And the sponsors will put up with it because it's safe, because they know at least this group of jerk offs is going to buy their stuff. By the way, never buy K2 skis. Never buy K2 skis. They support this shit. They are mediocre at best because if you didn't have a mediocre product, you wouldn't need mediocre athletes, right? And the athlete gets moral credit without giving anything up. So look at Mexico, look at the Russian team. These people really did something, really did something. And for these people to think that they are at the level, especially of the Mexico City Olympics, if you think that and this is Black History Month, which makes it even more egregious, if you think that your I don't feel good in my jacket bullshit is the same as standing up. Oh, and by the way, those guys medaled. All right. They medaled in their sport. Let's see how you all do because you're busy doing this shit instead of practicing your whatevers. So Smith and Carlos, who I'm just talking about, changed history because they paid for their beliefs with their careers. The neutral athletes, once again, they endured the punishment because this is the punishment of their state, inflicted upon their state by the Olympics, but they still got there and they still respected the rules. And today we're being asked to applaud symbolism with absolutely no sacrifice. This is like watching the Grammys. If Billie Eilish knew how to skate, she could be on the American team. The Olympics were never meant to be a branding exercise. They were meant to be a test. And I don't want to hear any more about the 30s Olympics in Berlin because Jesse Owens went there and mopped the floor up with everybody. And guess what Jesse was? He was not from Sweden. And some people want full credit for all that kind of stuff without answering the hard questions. So I can only hope that when this Olympics is over, these shitbags crawl back into whatever part of Jackson Hole or wherever they were from and have to become, I wouldn't even want them to be ski patrol people because those guys are responsible professionals. They'll be living in tents on the side of the dumpster at the International House of Pancakes in Telluride, doing funnies for an extra $30 or a lift ticket. So that's all I have for that today. Don't watch the Super Bowl. It's a waste of time. And fuck the Winter Olympics. See you all later on.